Thanks for coming, everybody. We are here today. So Tracy sent out the email. We're in the IB committees. And today for the agenda, we're here to, we're going to review the committee members and the roles. We need to, I'm not sure if we have a member that's going to take minutes. Kate, we had talked on the phone possibly. I don't know if that's a role that you wanted to play based on who's here today so far.
Yeah, because Rick had assigned it to Mark Schauber.
Sorry, what's that, Tracy?
I said Rich assigned Mark Schauber as the clerk.
Oh, okay. So Mark is the clerk. Without him being here, how do we go about that? Does anyone know?
Well, we've got the recording, and the recording will essentially give somebody, somebody can take minutes off of a recording as well.
So, okay. Yep. Thanks, Kate.
I'll be recording the minutes.
Oh, perfect. That functionality. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you. All right. And then we're going to review the purpose of the committee, the charge that we have, and some of the guardrails. And then something I was thinking about today, I don't know if we need to make a motion to any additions to the agenda. I know I've heard that before in some board meetings, but because by October 4th at the next River Valley board meeting, we need to tell them whether it's feasible for us to pause on the IB curriculum for this coming year. So that's in a couple weeks. So I didn't know if we needed to make an amendment to have a discussion about the feasibility of that with the group here. Does that sound about right, Tracy? From what you've, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great, Renee. So yeah, we'll move forward to amend the agenda, and we will add in doing what you said, the next steps, just to give
right. Okay, thanks. Okay, so our purpose, little statement. So we're gathered here together to get our most accurate knowledge of the IB PYP program at Dover and other curricular aspects of the SU. So that's our purpose here being on this committee. And our charge is just to provide facts about the pros and cons of the IB program at Dover, and so that the River Valley voters can make an informed decision about the program and whether it should continue to be offered at Dover School. Which was nicely put in Tracy's email to everybody in the beginning as well. So those are the basics. Does anybody want me to review the committee members, or is everybody pretty clear on who's on the committee? We're good. Okay. Okay, so I think that moves us into a discussion about if it's feasible to hold off on the IB program this year at Dover, and what we're going to tell the board on August 4th.
I think that that's a little bit of a double-edged sword, because I think for teacher burnout and integrity of either the EL program or the IB program, and the fact that the transdisciplinary themes have changed somewhat, and we only have until 2027, right, Bridget and Crystal? Yeah, to get reviewed. And if we stop for a year, I don't know. And I also don't know the feasibility of having I don't know. It's a That's a really it's really tricky. Like I think that this is why teachers were very adamant about this happening before before the end of the school year. And so it's I don't know. But I'll let Bridget and Crystal chime in because I mean they're the ones that are going to have to do the preparing. Plus, I want to say that like I have Katrina, who's a brand new teacher. She hasn't been properly trained. I have because we were in the midst of COVID when Heather was hired, she was not properly trained. Also, Carla was hired in the midst of COVID and she is not properly trained. Um, and even Ashley said to me, you know, she doesn't have the basis in which she would love to, and Annie is in the same boat. So I mean that's another hurdle that we have to kind of overcome. And then with the SUs on, you know, bringing in EL education, which I feel like everybody, I mean, likes is not, I mean, I don't know if that's a proper word to use, but like you know, like are feeling confident going into year two. And now if we say, okay, now all of this IB training has to happen and you have to create brand new transdisciplinary units. You can't use the ones that the teachers have prepared before you because those are going to all be different. And you have to now try to realign it with what modules we're doing for EL because we're also we're you know, we were asked to hold strong to using that program with integrity. So I'll share the air.
I'm going to step in and then Crystal, I'll let you add. I agree with what Tracy said. It's daunting, overwhelming. I've been teaching for over 25 years and last year was the most difficult year trying to combine both the EL curriculum and the IB framework. Both are wonderful. Both have their great attributes, but it's a lot. I think the biggest thing that a pause on the IB would cause would be the fact that the new transdisciplinary themes have been released, I guess. And as Tracy mentioned, we have until the next school year to have, they're giving us a waiver, IB's giving us a waiver. So we have one more year to have everything up to speed with all of the new transdisciplinary themes with our new units. And they're enough different that we would really have to tweak anything that we already have. So if it was just IB, that would in and of itself be a significant amount of work. But then trying to merge that with the EL units that we are going to be doing this coming year is incredible amount of work. And I want to say that none of us are against the hard work. It's just the redundancy of it that seems a bit ridiculous. A lot of it is dotting the I's and crossing the T's and making sure that it fits in the right box. And that's not student friendly. It's not at all in the best interest of students. And I think that's really what the focus that at least I can speak for myself. And I would say the majority of the teachers at Dover I'm going to say all of them would say students first. And all of that doesn't fit in. Tracy mentioned the training that we needed. I've been trained a long time ago when I first started at Dover. I'll be going into my third year as a sixth grade teacher. And I've done the exhibition twice, but do not have a course in that. So that, I feel that would benefit me personally. The additional training for that. Also speaking of having implemented 2 units of EL and then try to accommodate all of the IB units. I can say that I did not get through the 2 EL units because I needed to work on or spend my time focusing on what my students were doing for exhibition, which is really a great opportunity for the kids to showcase what they've learned in the IB PYP program. But with it on top of the EL, something had to go. And EL did, so that I could pursue the, or the students could work on the, on their exhibition. That's a quick synopsis of my 2 cents worth. I'll let Crystal add.
Hi, everybody. I mean, I've been doing IB a long time, and so I feel really comfortable and familiar with it. EL was new, and trying to incorporate and combine EL with IB was an extremely daunting task. And I'm a teacher who's very familiar with IB. And so I feel like if I found it really challenging and difficult, and I felt like I wasn't giving what I needed to give to IB because I couldn't, I think that we're going to be asking too much for teachers to try to do both.
I do want to add one additional thing. I think that it's, and Tracy and Crystal, I'm sure will agree that IB and EL have similarities, but there's some big, huge differences where EL is really a specific curriculum that says this is what you need to do, and it's pretty scripted, which doesn't allow the IB, which is much more student directed, and the teacher can take the standards and then figure out the path to get to the transdisciplinary theme, so that they really, while it sounds like they might match, they really have, it's a hard fit.
I would absolutely agree with that, Bridget. It's a very hard fit to make the EL curriculum fit into the IB program.
And I think that that's one thing to note, that when we were talking about this before, teachers had the time and training and experience with EL. We thought, because they were both inquiry-based programs, for lack of a better word, that they would be compatible. And I know that that's one thing that Rich is going to saying, is that, well, I was told that they would be compatible, and we thought that they would be, and there are some ways in which we can kind of get them together, but then there are some where, you know, the thumbs are never going to reach.
I think maybe where that confusion comes from, in EL, there are unit templates that are backward design, where more private schools develop their own EL units, which could be blended with IB, where you could set them up as like units of inquiry like IB. But because we have actually purchased the actual program and curriculum, the topics and the themes are already set. So maybe that's where that confusion came from. I could see that. I think if we had those blank templates, you could blend them much easier, but that's just not that's not the route that the district took, because not everybody, you know, is an IB school. But I could see that happening. It's just not, you know, we spent all this money on the program, and that's kind of where we're at now. But you all definitely touched on some of the facts that I had written down. I think, and I'm under the impression, so I looked up some things about pausing IB at a school. So I know it is possible. It looks like you can like notify IB that you want to pause, and you document it. And it looks like there's 3 different reasons that you could do that. One is for curriculum review. And I think with the new transdisciplinary themes, that definitely fits, because obviously you would be reviewing curriculum, which in the short term, like you both said, Bridget and Crystal, that would be, and Tracy, that would result in less PD in the short term. However, at the end of this year, or whenever this committee or voters make the decision, if IB stays, then there's a kind of a mad rush to get caught up, right? So that's one thing I had noted. I also think financially, the dues still need to be paid, whether you're in a pause or not. And the IB coordinator stipend that still has to be involved as well. So those are 2 financial things that voters would have to think about too. Um,
Renee,
and
can I just add
yeah,
another
go for it.
piece on the pause part? Because I think that like you mentioned, the financial aspect of it and the delaying of the PD is really super important. But I think it's also important to think about what the students are going to look at. It's like we all, I mean, for lack of a better way to say it, we all jump in and we're all doing IB and we all talk the language. And then all of a sudden we're like, now we're going to take a break. And then we start doing something different. And then if we were to go back to get that momentum going again, I think could be detrimental. I know that I had some students who were questioning a few things in the 6th grade because for so long they had done IB, and then EL comes along, and I had a couple say things like, well, wait, how come we're using this language instead of the IB language? Just so that's another fact that we should consider.
Yeah, I agree, Bridget. It could be potentially, and probably was potentially confusing for the students when you're using different language from different curriculum. Yep. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we have the EL slow rollout plan, and teachers really have been absorbing that. And you really have to teach it with, even though EL's message is teach it with integrity, in order to really learn it, teachers are trying to teach it with fidelity so that they can absorb it and teach it the right way. And then the autonomy and some flexibility within their teaching can come from that. But if you don't know the curriculum yet, it's really hard to do that. So that rollout plan still needs to be followed. And the PD aspect of it this year, as we all know, was really heavy. And next year there's more new components, so it's going to be a little heavier as well. And then the 3rd year it'll lighten up a little bit more. But so that's just kind of the rollout plan as it's written. So just some more things to think about. So I think,
I guess I'm just wondering if we can move the board to have the voters make a decision rather than discussing this pause, because I think we just need to know. I think I just think about, like Bridget said, the impact it's going to have on the student body, the impact it's going to have on the teaching staff, the impact it's going to have on other stakeholders. I don't, and I know that's why we had a number of people on this committee, and I know that, and I know that it's July and I'm in Florida, but I would really like to, I think on behalf of the teaching staff, really have the board think about just deciding, are we moving forward with IB or aren't we? Like, I don't know about this pause. I'm gonna be very honest about it.
I completely agree with Tracy on that. The pause, I think, is not the answer. I think because it's still delaying the whole decision part, which is, as Tracy mentioned, all the stakeholders, all the parents, everybody involved is going to be. And I think selfishly, I really think that we need to know. Are we going to have to do both? If that's the case, then we really need to start looking at how we're going to set that up in our classrooms. And instead of waiting until who knows when we are either not paused or whatever, I'm going to completely agree. A decision really ought to be made.
I would agree with that too. I think that we need to either know, are we doing IB or are we not doing IB moving forward?
And I think the other thing that would make this easier for other stakeholders is that we aren't going to give up some of the things that we have learned to love about IB. And I mean, one of those things is exhibition. And I think that if the IB like parameters were like taken off of that, the components that must be included, I think it could easily be, and I mean, I'm only saying this because I taught sixth grade, but it could easily be manipulated into any module. And even if we had to do them out of order because we didn't want to be redundant in whatever, you know, whatever area in which we wanted to move forward with exhibition. The language of IB fits. We did some professional development on this where we did a crosswalk with the language of conscious discipline, which we are firm believers in, and the language of IB and the language of EL, and they all work well together. And if we had one language that we could use with students, that would be the best route. Um, there was one other thing I was going to say, but it has now escaped me. I can't remember.
It'll come back to you, Tracy.
So I have a question, and I don't know if you would know the answer, Renee, or if it would just be something to think about. But it sounds like, you know, the way that River, or the way that our, like the SU has chosen to roll out the program is not really compatible with IB at this point in time. But is there a way that you could roll it out and have it be compatible, like you were saying with the other, you know, if we utilize different framework, or not really? Because I also want people to know and think about the part that this isn't, regardless of what we do, this is not a fast timeline. Warning a vote takes 30 days, doing ballots and things like that. That all takes time and energy. So like, I wish we could say that, yes, we will know before we walk into school exactly what the plan is. But like, that's something I even kind of vocalized a little bit when we first started discussing this in the spring, is that none of this is going to be a very fast process. So that's why we are fact finding in July while you guys are all in your hiatus. But yeah, so I was just curious, is there any flexibility, or is that not a good path forward based on what you know for the SU and the Dover team?
Well, I guess, well, I'll tell you the background of why we chose EL. So we as an SU had put out a teacher survey about literacy instruction within our SU, and it came back that there was 41 different programs and curriculum being taught to our students throughout the SU, and which pretty much explained why our results were looking like they were as far as data and student outcomes. And so that drove us to our director of curriculum then, Jen McCusick, looking into different curriculum and programs. Vermont State is going into sort of a statewide network of EL schools, and so it's pretty vastly being adopted. And so that's kind of the background of why we chose that adoption. Asking, now that we've started it, asking our schools to go back to like a blank template to create their own units I don't see that happening. I don't see how we could do that with the rest of the SU. And having them not be IB schools, I don't see how we could get everyone on board with that either.
So based on implementation and all of that, as an expert in curriculum, is there a way that we could keep both programs moving forward for the Dover community, or is that not a feasible solution?
It could be a possibility. I would assume though that would affect Wardsboro because they're in the River Valley district. So because like, you know, when we think about like cohesion and alignment with our curriculum, like West River, we share kids a lot more than River Valley students coming to, like when you think about going to middle and high school at Leland and Gray, we get a lot more Wardsboro students than we do Dover students going there. But in general, we really try to keep our practices most similar within those districts. districts. And so Marlboro, being their own district, sometimes has a little bit more flexibility because they're all on their own. Whereas West River and River Valley try to stay a little bit more of a cohesive unit. So there could be challenges with that if Dover went all on their own on that pathway. So I'm not saying no, it's not a possibility, but it could be. We would really have to do some research around what that would look like.
Kate, I'm not sure if your question, thank you, Renee. I think you spoke to the broader that I don't know about, but I think that, and I'm not sure if this is what you were getting at, Kate, or not, but the speed of the rollout of EL really would not have impacted or made better or worse the cohesiveness with IB and EL meshing. It's still going to be the hard fit, regardless of if we did all 4 units of EL and all 6 units of IB all at the same time. It would be probably actually worse if we did put it all together, because it would be all 4 new units and all 6 new transdisciplinary themes. And here you guys go, do it all at once. And it would be, I think that when Tracy said teacher burnout, I think that there would be people leaving mid-year. It would be really a hard sell.
I would agree with that, Bridget. I don't think that the rollout of EL affects our ability to also teach using the IB program. I think that's not, I think that's not really the issue.
And Kate, I think, were you more asking about like Dover being able to take on those blank templates and sort of mesh the two? Is that what you were talking? Okay. I think it is possible, but there are certain differences where they would run into some issues, like when Crystal and Bridget talked about like the learner profiles for IB, like risk taker, open-mindedness, things like that. EL calls them habits of character, and they are vastly different. It's more like being an effective learner, making the world a better place, things like that. So I think there would be some challenges with meshing the two that they would have to figure out. And I also think if we're thinking about, we talked about the teacher workload. We're essentially asking the school to rewrite 2 curriculums and blend them together, which as someone who has written curriculum before, I see that as being almost like a 2 to 3 year process. Truthfully, yeah. But it is, your question was, is it possible? It is possible, but
the level of effort is not sustainable.
I would definitely agree with that. I think that it's one thing to look at a blank template for EL and a blank template for IB, because essentially that's what the IB profiles, or not profiles, that's what we would do for IB. But it would be an awful lot of record keeping with fill in the blanks for EL, fill in the blanks for IB, and all of that. Our energy would be put toward record keeping rather than direct instruction to the students. So I think that it would be it would be redundant and a lot for teachers to do.
So based on what people are saying, like, what feedback would you, like, how would you quickly summarize this and take this back to the board based on what we know about the IB curriculum, the EL curriculum, and the feasibility of Dover School moving forward?
Well, one thing I wanted to kind of circle back to, I know the Dover staff is anxious to maybe just have a vote and figure out, what they're going to be able to do instead of pausing the IB curriculum. But my wondering is, because what I realized is we didn't go through the guardrails. So without having, these guardrails here of the background of IB, the decision to start the program, resources invested, because there are a lot of new people. And even I myself, I started 6 years ago. I don't know that information either. At a minimum, staff, former students, parents, community members should be queried on their experiences. They should all be outcome neutral, those inquiries. Report back to the board the pros and cons, not a recommendation. Requirements of IB certification, effectiveness of the program with student outcomes, and the compatibility or comparison of EL and IB. I don't know. I wonder what that vote would look like without everyone being informed. And so that it worries me to rush a vote, even though I know that people are really want to know what's going on. So I just wanted to circle back to that. I understand.
I feel like we're getting, whenever.
Go ahead, Meredith.
Is it time for me? Sorry. I can't find my raise hand button, but I feel like we're hearing totally one side of this. And I would like to just to maybe, I don't know how we would do it, but game out how it would work if we did keep IB. I kind of want to understand like how this happened a little bit. I feel like it's important for the voters to know as well, because it seems like we paid for this really expensive curriculum with EL, and the IB thing was just like put to this no, like from my understanding, from what I have, I guess I don't have an understanding. Like, how'd that happen? Like, we spent so much money on IB, and it was disregarded when they implemented the EL curriculum. So that's one question. Another thing is that I have heard from many parents that have talked about taking their kids out of the school if IB is removed, because they came to Dover for IB. So those are just the few things I wanted to put out there before, like, as we're understanding kind of where the teachers are at and what, why it's been so hard for them this year, and how unfeasible it seems at this time.
So I would just like to say, like, I really like IB. I really like IB. This is my first year experiencing EL, and so far I'm liking EL. I don't know all the parts of it yet, but so far I like it. But I feel very, very strongly that as a school, we're going to need to make a choice between, are we going to keep IB or are we going to keep EL? I'm saying that from a personal teaching perspective. It is going to be way too difficult to ask teachers to do both. It's like you're asking them to do two different jobs. And I think we're going to find that teachers are going to leave Dover School, that other teachers are not going to come to Dover School, because it's going to be too stressful and too much.
I totally agree with Crystal. I really, really do like IB. It's a lot of very similar to what I taught in Colorado. It wasn't IB, but it was backwards planning, and it was beginning with the end in mind. And we had these enduring understandings, which is the same thing as the transdisciplinary themes. And then we worked with our standards to get to those programs or to get to those outcomes. And it's student, really a lot of it student directed. I see great things. I totally understand what Meredith is talking about with parents liking that. I guess that the branding of the school, for lack of the right word, and it's if it were done with fidelity and true to IB, what the expectations are, then absolutely it's a remarkable education. A downside of the IB is definitely financial, and the other part is it's an awful lot of record keeping on the teacher's part that doesn't go directly to the students. So I think that designing the units and all of that, keeping track of things is what good teaching does, but to do it for the purpose of making IB happy for that's not exactly the right way to look at it, but making them happy with it. But yeah, I think I agree with Crystal. It's a great framework. But together, it's a lot of work. And I think that forcing or not forcing, but having this, I mean, I know you've heard just from the teacher's perspective, but I imagine that the workload that the students have is pretty extensive too. If we were really going full bore with all of it, it would feel a lot rushed, I think, with trying to get everything in.
Meredith, I think to your question about like, how did this happen? I guess, so in my experience in public schools with the IB units, generally they don't address foundational reading skills in an IB unit because learning to read is not really inquiry based. And so for the younger grades, having a separate literacy phonics program and things like that. So we have the foundations, which helps. We are piloting a new program because that's not quite meeting our needs. Crystal is going to be a part of that. And EL has a lot of the blended social studies and science within it. And so IB units generally in a public school are based around science and social studies. I haven't seen the Dover units in depth, but I'm assuming being a public school that's generally what their topics are. And so now that EL is covering those standards, now they have their IB units as well that are also covering those standards. So it's almost like they're double teaching science and social studies standards and trying to fit those into one day. So it's a repetitive teaching of social studies and science standards. I don't know if that helped answer your question.
It did. I just it seems like we backed into this place rather than coming on like knowing what was going to happen. Like spent all this money on IB and then threw in EL and didn't talk about ahead of time. This is going to be really difficult because these two things don't go together. It's I'm just a little bit confused, I guess, by that part. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I think, it was an SU decision, and I don't think anyone at Dover knew the curriculum until they started teaching it.
So I don't. So years ago, when Dover School, I was there when we adopted IB. Dover School did not have any curriculums that were mandated and within our classrooms. So when we originally adopted IB, it was, okay, your standards, you're going to use the framework of IB, so they're transdisciplinary themes, to create your own units of study. And then, as changes came and programs were adopted, it's become very challenging to meld specific program bridges, or does that help?
sorry, I was just talking for a minute without unmuting. It does. And I hear what everyone's saying, and I totally agree that we shouldn't put these two things together that don't work together. I think my worry is that the EL curriculum was brought in to meet the challenges of reading and the people think of below reading level. It seems like, from what I understood, like that we weren't meeting reading levels and things like that. And I worry that everything is based on people that aren't meeting reading levels, and then the people that are advanced are going to are not going to be challenged enough. And that's what I worry about
I
as
think
well.
maybe I spoke to that a little bit on one.
So I was in and out, sorry, at the beginning of.
Oh, no, that's okay. I think I did speak to that end of it, but I guess what I should say also is, and this will kind of come out when we go through all the guardrails, if this committee does continue. But EL does go through a lot of complex text and uses a lot of scaffolds for the students that aren't achieving. So it meets all of the MTSS levels as well as the advanced learners too. So I didn't mean to make it sound like it's only for the students that aren't achieving, but it is a reason why we picked a cohesive curriculum in the first place. You're right about that. Yeah.
I also just want to also say that this IB came in 15 years ago, Crystal.
Yeah,
15
15 years ago. And our scores were really good then.
And when that happened, you had a team of teachers that were trained to be
She froze.
Yeah, we were a team of teachers that were trained to be instructional designers. And we had been a team of teachers that had been together for a long time.
Right. And you had that team of teachers that were connected and worked well together. You had a different kind of clientele. That's also very important to note. You also had training together, and you were trained how to take the Common Core standards, and it wasn't that at the time, it was the Vermont State Framework at the time, and create your own unit of study. There has been so much turnover at Dover. We don't have that same teaching programs have changed. I think that that's the other thing that community members need to understand is that when you're exiting a teaching program from school, or say you get your teaching license through peer review, none of this how to create curriculum happens. And it happens very differently now than it did 15 years ago. And I just want that's one piece that the community needs to understand. And the other thing that they need to understand is that I did some research with Lori. I think we went from in the 20s poverty level to we're over 50%. Our clientele is changed. The other thing that I want to make sure, because this is something that I've heard from several parents, is that they think if we keep the IB designation that our school won't be closed in the state of Vermont, and that is not true. And I think that is something that I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know who is saying that and who is thinking that, but just because we're a STEAM school, or just because we're an IB school, or just because we're a PBIS school, the state of Vermont will close us if the state of Vermont wants to close us.
So I think in terms of fact finding and looking at the guardrails scaffolding that we're looking at too, I think that's a really important fact. And there are some other important facts that it sounds like you guys want to share as part of that scaffolding. So one of the things I just heard was that IB was implemented 15 years ago. That's when they decided to make this. The demographics of Dover were very different 15 years ago. They had a 20% poverty rate versus a 50% poverty rate at the school. Those were two big factors I heard. And then 15 years ago, the school had really good scores. They had some different things going on. And it feels like some of those factors have changed, and you want to call attention to that. Does that make sense that we would want to call attention to those parts and pieces as fact finding? And I do have a hard stop at 4:00 today too. Oh, I wish it was. It's children pickup. Can't pick up. It's very important. Yeah.
Mine is the door keeps going, Nana, Nana, are you done yet? Nana, are you done yet?
But what other facts like do we want to put like I think that was one of the questions I was wondering about. So I'm glad Crystal addressed that it's 15 years ago is when the IB program came in. And that a lot has changed. So I was curious about that. Okay. But what other pros and cons do we want to make sure we talk about?
Well, I don't want to blame everything on COVID either, but with that 4-year COVID gap, like we lost time to train teachers because we had to teach them how to teach online as opposed to like take IB courses and that kind of thing. Like that put a huge damper on the training that teachers would have been able to access. And I think Crystal would probably have the best knowledge of the other ins and outs that need to happen logistically.
Well, I mean, we're going to have we're going to have to really train a bunch of people in IB. All of our new staff, all the people that haven't been trained. Like for authorization, there's a lot of paperwork that has to go through with authorization and, records that have to be kept, and we have to demonstrate student work and student growth. And I think that if we do a pause, we're going to be missing all of those pieces.
And I'd be curious to know, because we have done, and this is just hearsay. We have not found this document yet, but Matt Martin, the previous principal, had done some fact finding about IB as well. And we don't have any record of anyone coming here because it was an IB school. Like we can't find any of that. So I mean, clearly Meredith knows some people, but in the time that Matt had done it, there wasn't like, oh, we chose Dover because of IB. Like he doesn't have any recollection of that.
The only thing that I could think back to, but I wouldn't have any documentation of it, is that during COVID, when everyone left the cities and they were searching for a less infectious place to be, if there is such a thing, a lot of students we had a big influx of students that came, and some parents at that time, I recall them saying, oh, we were looking at Dover because of IB. But that is just hearsay. There's no documentation of that to my knowledge. And those students are no longer here. They've gone back to their core cities.
Yeah, I think the choice enrollment forms don't state like anything like that, like check a box because of IB or anything. It's the same district choice enrollment, I believe. Okay, it's 3:57. I know Kate has child pickup. Do we need to determine next steps, or so we're bringing this information to the August 4th school board meeting, and we're just going to present the facts about the feasibility of pausing the program? And do we also suggest the voting, or will they read the minutes and just see that on their own? How does that work?
And I'm not certain if the board is going to vote on, like, ultimately, I think it's a community decision. I don't think it's a board decision on whether or not we continue with IB or all of that. That's why this is, was put more up as like a informational gathering, fact finding, so that we can bring information back to the board so the board can then talk about what next steps could be. And I don't know what they would be at this point in the game. I don't know if it would be something that we would be charged to do, like the board would charge us to do more work to gather more information from the community and all of that, or if based on the information and the feasibility of the two programs, it sounds like blending would be a very tricky thing. If that would be enough information for the board at this time. So I can't speak for all the board members knowing, but I think we have a pretty good start of information. Like if we were to kind of map it all out and put it in a grid, like we have some data points from a few perspectives. Obviously, we don't have all the perspectives that we were originally charged with because we didn't have a huge participation today, but yeah.
Do you think, is this the only meeting that we're planning to have for this? Or were we going to have one more? Because there's people, I didn't hear that from the beginning. I think I missed that.
Well, we are 2.5 weeks away from August 4th. So I don't know if we could try to meet again. I know I'm out for the first half of next week because I'll be off grid, but I don't know, like, do we feel like that we could have another meeting and try to gain some other perspectives and other data? Would that be useful? And
I think it would probably be beneficial. I think the board would appreciate that if we had some more voices at the next meeting. Anyone else have an opinion?
I agree with you, Renee. I have a feeling that unless we continue to unearth everything based on previous experience, it's going to keep coming back to us that we need more time and we need more time and we need to ask all these people. Yeah. We've asked for this since January and it's July. So I think that meeting again with everybody, or as everybody as we can be, to hear all of the sides would be beneficial.
Okay. I could send out another doodle poll. Did we think that worked pretty well? I know some of you showed up that said you could come, so thank you. It's hard to get everybody in schedule, especially in July, but I could try for like right before the board meeting, before that first week of August, if that gives us a little bit more time, or would you like to do it sooner? Last week of July?
Sooner,
I know Tracy and I have leadership retreat, but go ahead.
It would work better for me selfishly, but if you send out a poll, I think that we can figure something out.
Yeah, I think probably a poll will be the best because I know we probably all have different schedules. Like I know I'm going on a cruise leaving the 30th. So.
Okay. Yeah, and hopefully we can get some people that didn't show up today. So, okay, I will send that out and we'll meet again before August 4th.
Thank you, Renee.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you
for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.